Hello, hello, and Happy New Year to all. It is I, Julian Greystoke, wearing this hat. I'm gonna pretend it's a New Year's party hat because I don't actually own one of those, and today is way too busy for me to dress up. So you get Julian in her usual frumpy sweater, but now with a fun hat. Also because my hair is just out of control today. So what are we doing today, everyone? We are here to talk about my best and worst reads of the year of 2024. 2024 went by a million miles an hour, let me tell you. And let me also tell you that this was not my best reading year. As far as enjoyment goes, I had quite a few books in my year that just were not for me. I had some DNFs. This year I just really didn't have very many 5-star books at all. I really didn't have very many at all where I was like, ooh, this is my new favorite or anything like that. So I was struggling for books this year to be my best, but plenty of worsts, let me tell ya. And quite a few that were in between. Many of the books that I read this year hovered around the 2 to 3-star range, which for me is just like mid, forgettable, just not my thing, and not awful, abjectly awful, but also just not my thing. Also, keep in mind that I rate books on whether I like them, not whether I think that they are objectively good or objectively bad for the world or other readers. It is just me. So if you know that you have similar taste to me, you can try out books that I give high scores to and ignore books that I don't. Or if you know that we could have opposite taste, a book that I score low, you might be like, well, Julian gave that a 2, so I'm pretty sure that's going to be my next 5-star read. Whatever way you gotta do it, I just want to make it clear that I rate based on my own opinion, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I'm not going to pretend that I am some arbiter of quality or what you will like in a book. So anyway, now that that's out of the way, my yearly awards show style, which is our best and worst. I don't do the videos where I'm like, these are all my bests and these are all my worsts. I am doing a style where it's like best lead characters, best supporting characters, best found family, this, and worst as well. So you get them both combined into a lovely video in the style of a Julian Awards show. You'd think I would have dressed up better, but no, I did not. Anyway, I read 38 books this year. I usually don't even keep track of how many books I read in a year. Some of you are probably thinking, ew, that's low. Some of you are probably thinking, wow, that's a lot. That's why I don't keep track of books, because everybody reads however many books they read in a year. And for me, I gave up on counting how many books I read since I am no longer a middle schooler who gets a pizza party for reading so many books in a summer. Although I think they should bring that back for adults. I don't think I'd participate, but I know a lot of people would find that really, really motivating. Anyway, let's dive right into it. I have everything written down here in my notebook. I will use my tablet in case I can't remember details. Oh my goodness. When I raise up my notebook, my white balance just goes bonkers. In the first slot, we have my best and worst female lead characters. So let's go with best. Best female lead is Kiva from a book called The Prison Healer, which is a fantasy book that had been on my TBR for a long time, and I finally got my hands on it. The audiobook through Spotify, actually. And I listened to it, and I quite enjoyed it. And Kiva is our main character. She's just a breath of fresh air, as opposed to all of these other female leads that we've been seeing so much in fantasy lately, in popular fantasy lately. Kiva is not a warrior, she's not a fighter, she is, as the title suggests, a prison healer. Healer is her whole identity. She's not trying to do anything else with her life, really. That's it. And she lives in horrible conditions, and she acts like somebody who lives in horrible conditions, but without being such a Debbie Downer that I can't stand the book. Here's the thing, I can handle a character who's got a hard life and is sad about it, but they have to find joy in some things every now and then, or I can't keep going. A straight up misery character is never going to be for me. But Kiva had that great balance of being realistic about her emotions in the world that she lives in, and finding joy in things, and also just not being the snarky, good at everything, amazing fighter, amazing at everything she does character that we're seeing in so much popular fiction right now, so yay, good for Kiva. However, my worst female lead, this is tough because there's a lot of bad this year, but I gave it to any of the female leads in the book All of Us Villains. If you want to see me tear that book apart, I have a review of it, so go check that out because I did not enjoy that book. I think I actually gave it 2 stars, and thinking back, I probably should have given it 1. I think it is 2 stars because I felt bad because it was like so well liked. Every now and then this will happen where I'll be like, oh, this book is really well liked, and I didn't like it. But there must be something there that I just am too dumb to see, and I'm like, I don't think so. I think it really was just bad. Not for me, let me say, not for me. And any of those female characters, I kept getting them confused. I couldn't keep them straight. There's like 2 lead women, and I legitimately forgot who was who like 90% of the time. So, and lack of good characterization for me wasn't the only reason I didn't like them, because once I figured out whose voice I was reading from, I still did not like these people at all. They were just not fun to follow. None of the characters were in that book, but that's my worst female lead for the year. Let's go with best male lead, and that goes to the knight from Thornhedge. I read Thornhedge very early in the year, and I don't remember the knight's name. I think he does get a name eventually, but he's the knight for much of the book. Thornhedge is a novella by T. Kingfisher, who is definitely one of my favorite authors now at this point, and it is sort of a retelling of Sleeping Beauty from a different angle, and the lead character is sort of a fae creature, and she's in charge of keeping Sleeping Beauty sleeping, and then an adorable, just the most cinnamon rolly of cinnamon rolls knights comes along, and they just form a friendship, and I think eventually a romance, but like the friendship for me is very important. And I loved him. Like, people think when I say I like a cinnamon roll that I want them to be like completely like squishy and passive and like harmless. And yeah, I'm here for a guy who is just like not a warrior at all, and we need to see more of those. But like, he's a knight and he can fight and he will fight, but he doesn't like doing it. He doesn't like doing it. He's sad about it. And he's just so sweet and so respectful and so kind, and he loves his mother, and I'm just like, mwah, 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 mwah. Chef's kisses all around. All right. So my least favorite male lead goes to Kai from Powerless. If somehow you missed my Powerless series, Kai is just a Nazi. YouTube is going to get mad that I'm going to say this word a bunch, but he's just a Nazi. He participates in a mass genocide willingly. He revels in, he delights in murder, in torture. His introduction scene is literally the scene from Inglourious Bastards, but he is the Nazi character going into someone's home to root out a child who is hiding under the floor. Like, it is basically 1-to-1, except for there are magical powers involved. And it's like, he never has to interrogate that, at least within the Powerless book. He never even really feels bad about it. Never even really. I mean, he doesn't. He doesn't feel bad about it. He feels he deserves credit for not stabbing the child, but instead sending the child out into a desert to die there instead. Because he didn't kill her directly with his own hand, that makes him a good man. I could go on for hours about what a just heinous person Kai is, but I won't, because I want to get to the rest of this video. All right, next, I have best and worst romantic couple, a couple that I ship versus a couple that I do not ship. So the book that these characters are in might not be bad per se, or one that I didn't like, but I didn't ship the couple. So for the couple that I did ship, it was so refreshing to finally ship a couple, and that was the main couple in the Prison Healer book. Hooray! So the main couple in the Prison Healer is just so wholesome. Like, it's been a long time since I really shipped a couple romantically, and like these two, they made sense, they worked, it wasn't too shoved in my face. There was some pining, but like not too much pining. Like, I can't handle a book that is all pining. The characters gotta have something else on their mind. And both of these characters had other things to do besides chase each other. they were still very interested in each other, but like she had good reasons. She's like, I'm really busy right now. I work in a prison. I very pointedly do not want romantic relationships. So like, even though he was kind of interested in her and he would have pursued a romantic relationship, she shut it down, and not because she was like, does he like me? Does he not like me? Oh no, I can't tell. It was like, she's like, I can tell he likes me. I don't have time for this shit right now. And I'm like, yes. Give me a reason. If the reason that the couple can't get together is going to be internal instead of external, then the reason shouldn't be that they're too dumb to realize that the other person likes them. So yes, that was a ship that worked for me. Unfortunately, this next ship is going to disappoint somebody very specific. I did not ship the main couple in Ocean's Echo. I think they're awful for each other. I think they would damage each other. I know opposites attract is a thing, but I think they are too opposite. I'm going to be doing a full review of this soon, but let me just say this book also helped me figure out a romantic archetype that I just don't like. And that romantic archetype is competent, steady one, and disaster fuck up. Because I always end up thinking that the competent one deserves better. I don't care if the disaster fuck up eventually becomes like useful and helpful. I just can't. I can't with somebody who's like a total man-child fumbling his way through life. I don't care if you make him sad. He needs to get his shit together, all right? Be a frickin' man. I know these characters are younger, but still, they're acting like they're much older than they are. Like, I think these characters are supposed to be like 19 or something like that, or 20, and they're acting like they're older than that, while at the same time the fuck-up one is acting like he's 19 or 20, but I'm like, okay, but so much is being expected, and nobody, not a single person is treating them like they're 19 or 20. So it's like, well, okay, it seems like in this world a level of maturity is expected from 19 or 20 that this motherfucker just does not have, and can he get some, please?
Basically, if it seems to me that one member of a relationship ends up having to kind of play the part of a parent to the other member of the relationship, I just can't get into it. And that's what it felt like in this book. It felt like one of the romantic interests was having to parent the other one for a while until the other one could potentially come into their own. But like, that is just not a sexy dynamic at all to me, where one has to kind of be the caretaker of the other in sort of a weird parental role. And that's what this definitely felt like to me. Obviously, others disagree. This is a very well-liked book, or maybe this is an archetype that other people like, but this archetype, it squicks me out. It squicks me out when one is extremely mature and the other is extremely mature, because the mature one, it feels like is parenting the immature one.
All right, our next category is found family, best and worst found family in books, because you guys know I love me a found family, and unfortunately, looking through all the books I read this year, there really wasn't a lot of found family to speak of, so I kind of had to scrape something together, but Prison Healer wins again for found family. The side characters that we got, I really believed that all of these people like came together and would like each other. And there was also like women helping women, which I love to see. It was just very, very good as far as like side characters and everybody coming together to form this little like prison family. So that one was well done. As far as worst found family, I have Rules for Vanishing, which is a weird, weird book. And the characters in it, like it's a bunch of friends, follow this ritual that's vaguely fae adjacent, but they follow this ritual and they go into this woods, and inside the woods it's like really, really trippy, and there's gateways. And if you like weird books, this might be for you, kind of. Like, I think it's doing something potentially to do with the levels of hell, potentially to do with some sort of mythology. But anyway, all of these characters are supposed to be friends, or at least some of them are friends, some of them are dating, and I never bought a single relationship between anybody. By the way, don't mind the background noises. Things are going on in this house like they usually are. It sucks that I only have my camera audio right now because it's going to pick up all of those background noises, but this is when I have time to film, people. This is the reality of being a YouTuber. This is what we get. So the people in the Rules for Vanishing, I did not believe that they were friends. I did not believe that they were dating. I did not believe that they really knew each other. That book was so very interested in the plot and the plot only that the characters got left by the wayside. Like, who were they? What did they want? I don't know. And they certainly didn't seem like friends. Now we are on to a couple of new categories this year. This one is a book that left my brain immediately, i.e. a book that when I looked back through my list of reads for the year, I was like, what? I read that? What was that about? And that book is The Midnight Feast. Don't ask me what it's about, because I forgot. Next we have series that I might continue and series that I DNF'd. So, many of you may know that I'm really not a series reader. I don't have the attention span. Like, I can't stay with these same people. Like, if you can't tell a story within one book, I'm like, what are we doing here? So maybe that's why I find it so challenging to write series as well. So if I continue a series, that means that I really enjoyed the first book, that I would continue it. And I guess mild spoilers for my favorite fantasy of the year, but the series that I'm considering continuing is the Prison Healer series. If you are looking for a fantasy book that is not behaving in many ways like the popular fantasy books that are just so big right now and we're so sick of seeing, check out the Prison Healer. That's not to say that it does not have flaws. There are things about it that I don't love, but for the most part, I really liked it, and it was definitely, I liked it enough to keep going. I am, in fact, reading book 2, although I had to set it aside to read some other books from Libby, because I had to, read them within a time limit, and also I'm just not liking book 2 as much. They're out of the prison by book 2, and they're just doing other things, and I'm not feeling it. Maybe we needed the structure of them being in this fantasy prison. The first book does take place entirely within this, really, really awful fantasy prison, and I think that helped. I think the structure helped. But definitely willing to continue the series. I might even press on past book 2 in hopes that I like book 3 better. But a series that I was hoping I would enjoy, and I am not going to continue the series, is the Daedrith series. So Daedrith's Assassin being the first one. And I'm sad about it because the author is either an indie author or a small author. Anyway, I see they do a lot of their own marketing, and I see a lot of their videos come up, and I like their style of video making, and so I'm like, okay, well, I really want to check out their series and see if it is all that they're saying it is, and unfortunately, it let me down. The main character was meh. Her love interest was even more meh, if that's possible. And I heard it was a slow burn, but they're into each other so quickly. The fact that they're not having sex, to me, slow burn to me is not it takes them a long time to get in bed with one another. Slow burn means that they take a while to realize that they have feelings for each other. And these two are so into each other immediately, and it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. The main character was supposed to be this badass assassin, and then we never see her do any assassinating. I was like, oh, it's called Daedrith's Assassin, and Daedrith is the romantic interest, so she is going to become his personal assassin. She's going to go out and do assassinations on his behalf. No, she's just an assassin who ends up tied to him somehow, sold to him, whatever it is, arranged marriage. It's arranged marriage. And normally I like those, but no. So she just stops being a badass completely and just becomes just his pet woman, and I don't like it. It was really disappointing, and it wasn't the author was telling me it was all of these things, and for me, it was not those things. So I was disappointed, and I will not be continuing the series. I really wish that I could say that I was, because I want to support fellow indie authors, but that one, just no. Another of my new categories is a book that just filled me with rage. What is a book that made me unreasonably angry? And there were several this year, and I have videos about most of them, but one that it sticks with me. My feeling of burning rage. I read this book very early in the year, and when I see the cover, I get pissed. And that is The Last Housewife. I do have a review if you want to watch me tear this book apart, but this book, oh, I hate it. Oh, I hate it. It's about a woman who goes back to a town to try and solve the murder of one of her friends, and she has to infiltrate this, sex dungeon, and it is just awful. I really recommend you go check out my review of it, or if you want to feel rage, go read it yourself. So congratulations, Last Housewife, for being the book that filled me with the most rage this year. All right, now we are back to something a little bit more structured. I mostly read fantasies, thrillers, and horror books, and I did actually get more horror books in this year than I usually get, which was exciting. Right around Halloween time, I really got into some horror books, so I now can have best and worst thrillers, fantasy, and horror as the three genres that I read the most. So fantasy, as I mentioned, Prison Healer 1, it was so refreshing. It was just a breath of fresh air as to what I have been seeing in so much fantasy these days. And it was still that very readable type of fantasy. It was still very easy to fall into, but without using all of those very frustrating tropes. But what about worst fantasy book of the year? I think I have to give that one to Powerless. Yes, it was so bad. So bad. I can kind of tell when an author doesn't even want to be writing fantasy, because I think this author wanted to be writing dystopian, just like The Hunger Games. But somewhere, someone told her that it wouldn't sell if it wasn't a fantasy, and so she just forced it into the fantasy box, whether it fit or not. And you can tell, because the powers don't make sense, the magic doesn't make sense, the lore doesn't make sense, nothing makes sense. And there's no creativity, no effort put into any of the fantasy elements. She just throws stuff at you and is like, yep, this is how my world works. Don't ask any questions about it because it is in fact made out of tissue paper. Your breath might blow it over as you ask the question. Now, what about thrillers? So, a book that I read very early this year is a supernatural thriller. It's called A House with Good Bones. It is by T. Kingfisher, and it is my best thriller of the year. And my worst thriller of the year, and book that was a high contender for something that filled me with rage, is a book called Never Lie. And I have a review about that, so I really recommend you go check that out. I tell you all about what the book's about, we go through it, and I tear it apart. But let me just say that this book used one of my very least favorite thriller tropes, and used it in the most atrocious way. Like, not even... I'm running out of words for bad things, for badness. This book was not good. I did not have a fun time. It filled me with rage. Go check out my review. And finally, for horror books, my best is a bit contentious because a lot of people don't like this book, and some people would say this isn't horror, but I'm counting it because some people do say that it's horror, even though I did not personally find it terribly scary, and that is a book called Mr. Magic. I have a review of it, go check that out. That is a book that I liked that a lot of people didn't, which happens every now and then. I will really like a book that everyone else is like, ew, not for me. But if you want to see my thoughts on that, I really recommend that you check out my review, because to talk about what I liked about it, I would really have to go in depth, and I don't want to spoil stuff for you. Let's just say that I really sometimes like a book that is heavy on the metaphor. And for my least favorite horror book of the year, I have given that award to Murder Road. I also have a review of that one. Fancy that. I have been doing a lot of reviews for books I don't like this year because I have enough trouble getting people to watch my book reviews. My book reviews just tend to not do very well. I don't know why, but they just don't. Thank you to everyone who's been making an effort to watch my book reviews. But all that to say that I have a review of this one as well if you want to find out why I didn't like it. And it wasn't just because I didn't find it scary. Oh, I missed a category. I missed Best Supporting Character, and this reminded me. Because my award for Best Supporting Character is actually a character from Murder Road, which is proof that I cannot like something and still find something to enjoy in it. And that is the character of Rose from Murder Road. While none of the other characters were well done, Rose had depth. She started out really curmudgeonly. She's the owner of the Airbnb where the two lead characters are forced to stay. And she started out super curmudgeonly, and she's like, I hate everybody, fuck off. And then slowly, as you got to know her, you find out she has this really poignant, tragic backstory that when she was retelling what happened, it made me legitimately emotional. So Rose got to evolve and got to be a person. Nobody else really did in this book, but Rose, great side character. Loved her. And for worst supporting character, I just have anyone in Iron Flame. All of the side characters are just names on the page, and if they show up more for a little while, that probably means that they're just going to be killed off. There's a single fly in here again. It is the middle of December, just absolutely midwinter outside, and somehow there's still a fly in here. But yes, Iron Flame, any of those side characters, just there's nothing to them. They are cardboard. All right, and now we are down to my favorite and least favorite book of the entire year. Favorite was easy. Least favorite was really, really challenging because I read so many books that I did not like this year. How, oh how, will I choose my least favorite? So for best, I have that early contender from T. Kingfisher, A House with Good Bones. It is about a woman who goes home to check on her mother, who has been acting strangely recently, and I really like it. The main character is a whole adult who's like got her own adult life, but she has a really great relationship with her mom, so she comes home and they do things that me and my mother do together. Like, the adult and their parent who they get along with relationship is really there and wholesome and sweet, and the mystery, I really like that the lead character does not immediately just believe in the supernatural thing. Like, I hate it in supernatural books where the supernatural element will be introduced and the main character will be like no thoughts, head empty about it. Like, I want some pushback from the main character to be like, well, there could be a rational explanation for this. And that's what this character did. She is a scientist. She is rational. I love that she had so many things going on in her life on the outside, and I love the mystery that's slowly building with the roses and the vultures, and just like, it is for me, it set the bar for supernatural thrillers for me, so definitely enjoyed it. And my worst book, this was tough. This was hard to choose, but I think I'm going to have to say, and I know it feels a bit cheating, but because I wouldn't have read this book myself, like, this would not have been something that I would just pick to read for pleasure, but my least favorite book this year is Powerless. Oh boy. Is that it's not for me. It's not for me. I am kind of shocked that it's for anyone, and yet people love it for some reason. I will say that this author is good at banter. She has that skill. However, she needs to remember that less is more, and we do not need it to be every single scene, because that book is just so jam-packed with banter that you get exhausted. And it doesn't matter if the author's good at it anymore, because it's just that. Everything else is secondary to the romance and the romantic banter back and forth. It's like, I know you're good at it, but like, show that by picking out the best of your banter and putting it in the book, not just every scene you've ever thought of that they could banter in. And if you are like, what is Powerless about, Julian, please go watch my lengthy series about it. Or if you think that maybe Powerless would be a book that you would like, there are so many people who love it and will not spoil it for you, so go check out their reviews of it. But it is basically Hunger Games knockoff, but with superpowers. Heavy on the knockoff. This is Temu Hunger Games. This is the Hunger Games we have at home. And this isn't even just the Hunger Games we have at home. This is the Hunger Games we have at home, way at the back of the cupboard. It's been sitting there for a while. The expiration date has rubbed off, and no one's quite sure how old it is, but it is definitely turning green. Thank you so much for watching me, and if you've been watching me for this whole year or longer, a special thank you to you. You get a special thank you. High five me. High five the screen. Bam. High fives. I have more plans for this coming year. You are definitely going to be seeing a new read-along coming out very soon. I'm reading it as fast as I can. This holiday season has been so busy, and I'm not okay with that. I like a relaxed holiday season where I can get a lot of recording done, and this has not been that. I hope that you enjoyed this. Sorry again about the audio issues. I need to figure out what's going on with my tablet. Don't forget that I have a Patreon and channel membership where you can get exclusive videos never seen here on the regular channel, or often you also get sneak peeks and previews to upcoming read-alongs, so that's always fun. Don't forget also that I am a developmental editor, so if you're like, I have written, but now I don't know what to do next, you can speak to me, and maybe it's time for a developmental editor, and hey, I happen to be one of those, and I could be your developmental editor. You could say things like, oh, my book is with my editor. Wouldn't that be so badass to be able to say that? Thanks so much for watching, and I will see all of you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!
You have the anger of a much taller woman.
Oh, I am angry, Jarl. I'm 7 feet tall angry.
Don't worry, though. My anger is only aimed at bad books, not at my beloved patrons. Patrons like Jennifer, Nemo, Tactical Hot Dog, Haley History Nerd, Stephanie, Pixelizzy, Raya, Christina, Cameron, Lady Kragan, Jose, Lunar Muse, AJ, Marshy, Semi-Dark, GK, Scout, K, Annika, Jen, Gay Tutter, Tina, Laknunga, SB Boots, Martha Baggins, July, Bird Anonymous, Sarah, Cat, 78 kilograms of shade, Veda, Roma, Pansing Pony, Haley, Sam, Kira, Kohikaro, Mooney, Pudamancer, Kirsten, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, Jessica, KJ, Lafone, Mufflier, Celia, Alyssa, Deborah, Afra, Swamp Goblin, Waifu, Sophia, Merween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Vampire Antihero, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, and Lisa. The year's almost over and I can't believe that I have even more amazing patrons. Hello to all of the new patrons, but special shout out to all of the longtime patrons who have been here for the long haul. All of you are MVPs, and I hope you're enjoying your time here in my Patreon.